That's.
Yeah, it looked like it was changing directions. Alright, we have 30 seconds. I mean,
If there's already not to be, or, you know.
all right, we're good. Tell us when you want us to go live. You're good. We're good. Okay. Stand for your pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As a way of respecting, honoring, and creating awareness of our past, we begin our village board meetings by acknowledging that New Paltz is on the ancestral land amongst the Esopus and Lenape people. Please check out our agendas and our minutes and help us keep adding to our list of ways to support Indigenous communities. There's some links in our agenda every meeting.
I'm going to add a few things to the consent agenda and business agenda before we start. So within the consent agenda, I'm adding number 4, planning board application fee request rollover from 88 North Chestnut to 52 Main Street. Then within the business agenda, making sure that we have good cause eviction law as number 2. Number 3, which we're adding, is considering a code change to reflect this board's April 2024 adopted position statement regarding the appropriate definition of family, so it's crystal clear. Also number 7, I'm adding a resolution in support of the Village of New Paltz's application to the New York Department of State regarding the Downtown Revitalization Initiative $10 million grant program. Item number 8 to be added is Green Meadows, the contractor who is installing the 4 groundwater wells up at the treatment plant property. They were supposed to be done in September. They asked for an extension through the end of the year. They're waiting for materials to be delivered to complete the project regarding connecting those groundwater wells to our treatment plant. And then item number 9, the Margaret Wade Lewis Center, they're applying to Preserve New York for a technical assistance grant. So the grant has to come from the Village of New Paltz, but we will work with them to make sure that that is being prepared correctly and submitted as a proposal from the village to help with the Margaret Wade Lewis Center rehabilitation. I move that we adopt both the consent agenda and business agenda as amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I move the consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then announcements, I believe our county legislator joined us last meeting, so we're not going to hear from legislator Harmon tonight, but I have one announcement I wanted to share with the community, anyone who's here, even if you're outside of the community, but you just would like to see our Main Street be safer. So one of the themes within our grant application that we're submitting to the Department of State will be significant investments into some of the more challenging intersections on Main Street to make them more pedestrian friendly. So we have a form, a Google form. It's linked here on this agenda. It's also on the village website and social media. We're just encouraging people to go and just sign on that they think that that would be an important and good use of New York State funds if New Paltz was to be successful receiving that grant award. Anyone else from the village board have announcements to make?
I have a few. I wanted to let everyone know that there's another really free market taking place this weekend on October 12th from 1 until 5 p.m. in Peace Park. So if you have things that you no longer need that somebody else might want, bring them. Just be prepared to take anything that you bring away. Or if you are like, I'm planning on going to go shopping for someone else's old garbage, that will be my new outfit or something. And then I wanted to share, we have obviously a big election coming up. And I wanted to share that there's a couple of propositions on the back, and one of them is really pursuant to our community's interests, because we're all about justice and equality. So Proposition 1 basically asks all New Yorkers whether or not to pass the New York State Equal Rights Amendment. Yeah, it hasn't passed yet. So that's why they're trying to do it now. Some backstory on that, like in order to even like codify this like constitution change, it has to go through it has to pass 2 different legislative sessions, which means a 4-year cycle, and they have to be consecutive. And so that's, why we haven't really seen this in a while. And it's important because we need to codify certain legal protections, like the right to an abortion, freedom from discrimination based on disability, gender, sexuality, ethnicity, among so many other different things. And we need that in the state constitution. This way, no matter what happens down the road, if, politicians come to power who oppose same-sex marriage, or reproductive rights, and they come into power, it would be harder to make those restrictions, happen to these existing rights. So when we go vote, we have to make sure to flip it over, and it's Proposition 1 for every district across the state. And the voter registration deadline this year is October 26th, which is my father's 75th birthday that he's been meeting to. Yay! And then there was a request from one of our trustees for an update on the community healing circle. So I've had a really great experience at it. So I just want to share out, a big thank you to Stana for leading the way on that, spending your whole summer, finding these resources and basically being the point of contact for this community healing circle. It was about 12 people in attendance. And I know I personally felt very heard and feel like I gained some tools for better listening and better understanding and just appreciation of community members that I don't necessarily have to agree with ever. But we can still get along respectfully and all feel heard and loved. So that was my take on it. It went really well. It doesn't seem like there was a wait list for another one, so there's no, next steps or anything for now, but if there's another healing circle, definitely invite me to it. I'll come.
Yeah, it felt like it went well. Everybody who wanted to take part did take part. So again, there is no waiting list. But if people come forward and want something like this again, I'm certainly open to helping make it happen.
And so while we're talking about that, I want to shout out, Stana was able to get the executive director from the Dispute Resolution Center to be the facilitator of that conversation, and I think she did a great job. I would agree, it's a very challenging topic, but I feel like people in the room felt heard, so best we can do. Any other announcements from the board?
As always, Family of New Paltz needs our help to help our neighbors. So any kind of donation, large or small, that you can give, whether it be monetary or otherwise, it's greatly appreciated. They always need toiletries and feminine hygiene products in particular. And I know the sisterhood is currently doing their red tent drive that they do yearly, which is for maxi pads, and there are different salons and other businesses around town who are accepting donations of maxi pads, and that'll all go to family as well.
Anything else from board members? Nope. Okay, so then let's continue. We have a public hearing that's open. We said at our last meeting that we anticipated keeping it open through tonight, but then probably closing it. So if anyone wants to make a public comment, you're more than welcome. But I shared with probably half of the people who are already here that I don't have a crystal ball, but I don't anticipate a whole lot of deliberation amongst this board. Once we get to that agenda item, I think, we signaled at our last meeting that this should be a pretty straightforward exercise in terms of taking the proposed legislation and moving it forward. But you're more than welcome if anyone feels compelled to join us and make a public comment.
You'll just have to come to the table so that Mike can pick you up and so that Brad can get your name. But I think somebody was trying to get into the Zoom. A minute
It's
ago.
be 2 people in the meeting.
Okay,
Let's make sure they're not a Zoom bomber.
They look like me, they're.
Good.
Yeah, I'm Andrew Hiller. I'm with MHPDSA. I live in Rosendale, but I organize in New Paltz for housing justice. I'll keep my comments brief because it sounds like we're in a good place. But just wanted to really quickly talk about the parameters that you guys have the power to adjust. I know you've already considered them. I think you're going to do the right thing, but just so we're absolutely clear. We urge the council to pass the strongest version of the law possible by defining a small landlord as the owner of one unit. Setting the portfolio exemption higher than one unnecessarily excludes thousands of vulnerable tenants. I'm sorry, hundreds. Only 33% of New Paltz renters live in buildings with more than 10 units. Adopting good cause without adjusting the portfolio exemption will arbitrarily exclude 2/3 of New Paltz tenants from these vital protections. A portfolio exemption higher than one will also make it much harder for those who are covered to enforce their rights. As I'm sure you know, it's common for landlords who own several properties under different limited liability corporations that their names are not attached to. And if landlords who own more than one unit are exempt, it will be extremely difficult for tenants to know how many other units their landlord owns. So in essence, tenants will have to guess as to whether or not they're covered by good cause. We call this the LLC loophole because the lack of clarity it creates is a giant opening for corporate landlords to swoop in and push out working class tenants. And the bill already exempts landlords who live in the same building as the units they rent, with the exception of buildings larger than 10 units, so there's no need to exempt even more tenants. The upstate municipalities that have adopted good cause so far are Beacon, Newburgh, Poughkeepsie, Kingston, Albany, Ithaca, and Nyack, and all of them have defined small landlords as the owner of one unit, so we urge the board to follow their lead. Another parameter the council has the ability to adjust is the high rent exemption. We again urge you to follow the example of other upstate cities who've adopted good cause by setting the exemption threshold at 345% of area fair market rent. A lower threshold could easily create a perverse incentive for landlords to increase the rent a little bit to avoid being covered by good cause. And that's all I got. Thank you.
So just so super crystal clear, I'll read from our proposed law. So it says, such unit has a monthly rent above 345% of fair market rent as calculated as provided in Article 6A of the real property law. And then the other section regarding small landlord, it says define small landlord to mean a landlord of no more than one unit anywhere in the state of New York. So that's what it says in our proposed law. So, just to clarify, just so we're all on the same page. So I think what's interesting about this is, so good cause would apply if a landlord controlled 2 properties, but not if they controlled 1.
That's correct.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
awesome.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
2 or more.
Right.
Yeah, 2+, yeah,
Thanks so much.
thank you.
Anyone
Also,
else?
if they controlled one and they lived in it and then controlled another, I think it would qualify, but
Yeah,
Oh, if they can, right, so owner occupied would count as 1?
yes. I think so. Anyway, sorry.
No, that's an interesting distinction, sure. Anyone else want to make a public comment? Come on up.
Hi, I'm Caroline. I use she, they pronouns. I'm a student over at New Paltz. And I'm currently involved with For the Many, and we've been working on passing good cause eviction for quite some time now. So to hear that it's most likely going to be passed is very exciting. And I really just wanted to get up here and reiterate everything that's been said earlier and just state how bad we really need these protections and how bad we really need more from this. Good cause is great, but we need more than that. So I urge you to keep passing tenant protections and housing rights, and yeah. Thank you very much.
thanks, we can keep working together. So,
Anyone else interested in making a comment?
I'll be brief. My name is Lucas. I'm a student at SUNY New Paltz. I'm also a resident in the town. My dad has lived up here for about 10 years now, so I'm familiar with the community. And the last 2.5 years or so, I've been working really hard to organize and take care of the people here. I just really ask you to consider how this bill takes care of the people who live here and encourages them to stay here, to make this place their home, and makes them feel protected. And just want to say that.
thank you.
I think you were interested in making it around, right?
Yeah. Alright, I'm losing my voice to work with me here. I'll also try to keep things brief. I also have plenty of money, clearly. I'm also a student at SUNY New Paltz. I'm also completing thesis research on landlords and tenant protections, specifically in cooperation with long-term landlords. Not against them, so I'm here for good cause eviction, but I definitely work and have dedicated my future prospective career to helping landlords and helping renters with long-term landlords, local long-term landlords. I found that they're pretty compliant and they want to work with renters because they're local and they've maybe rented once before and they're also local and they want the housing rates to go down too. So yeah, I'm not here with malicious intent against them at all. I also want to say that because we're a college town, a lot of what happens in the college reflects how our housing market looks here. Specifically, SUNY New Paltz is closing like 2.5 of our dorm buildings. And they're over admitting more transfers and freshmen every year than they ever have before. So they're reducing their capacity and with food as well. They're closing our only dining hall on campus and they're not giving any more resources to our other food options. So it's really unfortunate because they mandate if you live on campus, I don't know if this is common knowledge, but if you live on campus, you need to have a meal plan. They do not allow you to have housing on campus without one. The meal plans are really expensive. They don't have allergen friendly meal plans. They don't really have dietary friendly meal plans. It's really unfortunate. So if people want to eat next semester, they're probably gonna want to move off campus. If they overadmit, again, like they have the past 2 years, people have been on waiting lists for houses after being admitted to the school and paying their down deposit. So a lot of people are gonna be moving off campus, so I'd also like to reiterate that this is the perfect time to be passing not only good cause evictions, but other tenant protections, because the people that are currently in housing shouldn't be able to be bought out by affluent students who are now panicked and moving off campus. They deserve housing as well, but the people who are established and have roots here and have been in a tenant situation or been renting in a unit shouldn't be able to be just evicted. But still, other tenant protections are very important right now and in the following years because of SUNY New Paltz's situation. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, I want to know more about your thesis sometime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Do you want me to comment? Come on up.
Yeah.
Just anyone on the call, so I know our folks are here regarding the firefighters, retirement portfolio. Is everyone involved with that group, or is there anyone?
I think Klaus wants to make a comment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, hi, my name's Avery. Just to offer a different perspective, I'm a professor at New Paltz. I also attended grad school here. And from the faculty perspective, I know that we've gotten multiple reports of students being accepted or transferring in, and as they're unable to find housing in the area, they've had to defer or not accept, which I think obviously damages their learning potential and the potential of the town of New Paltz as a community and economically. I also have many students that I found throughout the semester are commuting, and every semester that I teach, I get reports of students commuting from farther and farther away, living with their families just because they're not able to afford or find housing in the area. I have students driving up to an hour just to get to class, which really cuts into their time for learning, homework, class time, etc. So I'm just really grateful that you guys are considering this and moving it forward. So thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else in public or class, did you want to make a comment on this topic?
Yeah, sure. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, thanks for having this hearing. My name is Klaus Yoder, New Paltz resident and homeowner. I'm on the call because, yeah, I mean, I've known a lot of friends and colleagues and young people who have graduated from SUNY New Paltz who have been priced out, not been able to afford paying rent in the village. And as a parent with 2 children in Lenape and Duzine, respectively, I hear from my kids sometimes that, you know, people need to move out of the classes, that maybe their families are having housing insecurity, and that this is like sort of something that really affects the whole ecosystem of the village and the town's like sort of basic health. And so, you know, at a time when like class sizes are shrinking and teachers are being terminated, I think like making this place, you know, a town, a village where more people can afford to live here, and have a more sort of socioeconomic diversity in the residents would be something really, you know, strengthening. So I appreciate you taking the time to consider this. Also would urge you to pass the sort of the most, the sort of firmest definition of a small landlord as the owner of one unit to protect tenants and avoid loopholes that can hurt them. So thank you so much.
Anyone else online? So while everyone's here and we're talking about like other things that could be considered regarding housing specific legislation changes. So this board thought it was important back in April to create a position statement regarding the appropriate definition of a family. So we're kind of handcuffed to using this concept of family because it's baked into New York State Uniform Building Code. It's like you have like one family homes, two family homes, multifamily homes, like it's a word that we have to use. And we've struggled with this for many years. And the way family is currently defined within the village code, it basically says refer to case law. And we've worked with our attorneys and felt very comfortable, and that's why we issued this position statement back in April that said courts have held that it's impermissible to discriminate against groups of people living together based on whether or not they are related by blood or marriage. In essence, a group of people is sharing a kitchen and living space. They should be treated like any other family, provided that safety related criteria such as parking limit violations, overcrowding, and or state uniform building and fire code violations do not exist. So I'm the liaison to the Zoning Board of Appeals, and last night I was at the meeting and I was very frustrated because I felt like a lot of the conversation seemed to be focused on using what I would consider a very exclusionary definition for family. So I felt like we had it covered with this position statement. So what we did is we added to this evening's agenda that we intend to make it crystal clear that the definition of family will be along the lines of what I just wrote. And we had a whole conversation back in April on this topic. But I think that's very important when you think of, you know, I'm a big proponent of empowering our building department to work on laws that are enforceable, like making sure that buildings are safe. Like that's our primary responsibility as local government. I don't think it's anyone's business to try to figure out who's related to who or who's sharing what bills or any of that stuff. I think as local government, we should be 100% agnostic to any of that. I just think it sets a very curious and disturbing precedent. So I just wanted to share that and make sure that that was on your radar screen as housing advocates.
It's linked in the agenda too, just.
Yeah, our position statement that we worked on, that we, you know, carefully vetted with attorneys, and I was very proud of that position statement that we came up with back in April. But clearly we have to codify it and make it crystal clear so that like our zoning board of appeals and our planning board members, you know, feel that if it's code, they know exactly what they should be referencing, as opposed to a position statement, which is just an interpretation of code.
Sweet. So if there's no more comments on good cause, should we close the link hearing before we move on to the agenda?
I thought you were going to motion to do that.
Yeah, just want to make sure everyone's good. We got some good written comments too. They'll be in the record. So yeah, I move that we close the public hearing on good cause eviction.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Right now, business agenda stuff.
Just quickly, how does our board feel about just going ahead and adopting good cause just to move it forward, or do we anticipate like questions and deliberations? Because I know we have folks here that we're waiting to hear from. What do you guys want to do as a board? Do you want to?
I'll move to adopt our.
I just want to just take an informal straw poll.
Oh, okay.
Do you wanna, are you okay with adopting? Okay,
Okay,
so then, now. go.
okay, I would like to move that we adopt our local good cause eviction law. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Exciting. All right, so you guys are welcome to hang out and listen to us talk with our financial planner who's telling us about how their portfolio is positioned. So this is basically the retirement funds that our volunteer firefighters, he's gonna tell us, how he's protecting that money on behalf of our volunteer firefighters. So you're welcome to hang out, or if you want to take a second and leave, either. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate
All right, so we have Dave Rogers. He's no relation to me.
Hi, Mayor. Thank you. Is there anybody left?
These folks are just shuffling out, but all this meeting's being recorded. The newspaper will report out on our conversation, and I thought it was useful to have, you contacted myself and wanted to provide us with an update about, any changes within the portfolio that you manage on behalf of our volunteer firefighters. So it seemed like it was a useful opportunity to just have that conversation publicly.
Thank you. So the village board are the trustees of a pension plan for the volunteer fire department called LOSAP, Length of Service Award Program. You have a defined contribution plan, a fairly modest plan. It's designed to promote recruitment and retention of volunteer firefighters in your local community. And what we're seeing pretty much statewide, nationwide, is it's getting more and more difficult to keep volunteers active. And LOSAP is one of those solutions. We have been your investment advisor and portfolio managers for a number of years on the LOSAP. We have a mandate and investment policy, if you will, for 40% equities, that's stocks, 60% bonds and cash. And if you're looking at my screen, if you're not, I'm going to talk through it anyway. We have 37.5% in equities, and we have about 5% in mixed assets, half of which is equities. So we're pretty much right on our 40% equity allocations. We are up 7.81% year to date, 13.07 for the last year. We're pretty much flat for the last 3 years. You probably recall in 2022, we had a bear market. We were down, but we've caught up from there and moving forward. So in broad terms, we have most of your assets in low-cost index exchange-traded funds. You're going to see a lot of Schwab, iShares, Vanguard, low-cost index funds. But that said, we also have 34% of your assets in government guaranteed bonds. We call it a bond ladder. So we started doing this 2 years ago. You might recall that rates were at zero for very many years. Then the Fed started raising rates. CD started paying in excess of 5%. So here you're going to see what we call a bond ladder. We have money coming due kind of now, 25, 26. This is for 27, 28, 29. We have some longer term government agencies, but we've locked in better than 5% returns in individual bonds. And that should give us a nice anchor and a stable earnings, going forward. So I don't know how much detail you want me to get into, but all these are your typical reports. All of your portfolio holdings are here. All of the funds that we hold have their performance track records on this page. And I updated this as of this morning. You may have gotten or will be soon be receiving your September 30th report in the mail. It should be very similar to what this looks like. And we're here to support you, to answer any questions or concerns that you might have. But I guess lastly, we're getting a lot of questions right now about whether we should be more aggressive. Everybody knows the stock market's been doing very well, or should we be less aggressive because, you know, the yields are higher than they've been in a while. And to me, there's nothing really compelling about either argument. We're concerned that stock market valuations are very high and yields have recently come down from 5% towards 4%. So I think you're in a good spot. And to me, who we're investing for are more your senior firefighters. Young firefighters are not staying anymore. You know, they come and they do their few years and they leave. So the average firefighter now is in their late 50s. So we're really investing for more of your senior people that don't have a lot of time before they collect. So I think it's appropriate to be on the conservative side. Still want some equity exposure. We do have that. And again, I think things are going well and are on track to where we want to be. So let me stop there and see what kind of questions, concerns that anybody might have about the plan or about what we're doing.
I just wanted to make sure our public and our board was super familiar with like where this money comes from. So years ago, the service award for volunteer firefighters. So if a volunteer firefighter does a certain number of calls and a certain number of training hours, am I missing anything else, Bill?
Maintenance and
Yeah.
grand total.
So there's like a formula that you have to hit, and then you're eligible for a service award. And a few years ago, it was only $700 per firefighter per year. Our board actually was instrumental in lobbying the folks up in Albany a couple of different times, and that number was increased from 700 to 1,200. We actually originally asked to triple it to 2,100. And we've even more recently asked, you know, some of the elected officials if they would consider carrying legislation to increase that amount again, because I think it is a valuable way to recognize the service from the volunteer firefighter. So I just wanted to make sure it was really clear where this money comes from and what's the total portfolio value? Is it like approaching $400,000?
400, excuse me, 1 second again, and it's where was I? It is $484,000.
So it's a material amount of money that you manage on behalf of a number of New Paltz volunteer firefighters. And I also remember looking a few years ago, because, you know, you provided us with a list of, you know, different securities, whether it's bonds that you hold directly or funds, you know, it's generally like high quality investment at securities. And, you know, if it's a fund, the fees seem to be, you know, very competitive. And then your rate to manage the entire portfolio, tell us what that is. Because I remember feeling, you know, very comfortable with, you know, how much we are paying you. It feels like, you know, it's a very competitive, fair rate.
Our fee has been 75 basis points, 0.75% annual fee for a long time. It's very competitive.
Yeah, so
and again, the mayor's correct. You're going to see like the iShares core S&P here, 3 basis points to own the entire S&P. Same thing with mid caps. Not everything's that inexpensive, but there are a lot of very low cost index funds in our portfolio.
Yeah, so I mean, I would emphasize that I feel like we're doing a good job by having Dave and his team manage this diversified portfolio for 0.75%. So thank you for that. It's noted and appreciated. Do we have any other questions about the portfolio itself, or?
I just want to comment that Dave's right, that it's not necessarily the LoSAC program attracted to younger members because they don't see retirement happening anytime soon. So, but we get to that average age that Dave said, what was it, 50 years of age, something in mid-50s. that's when it really helps, because people are looking to fulfill their responsibilities and helps with retention in many ways, so. At least in my experience in our company, it's talked about and it's appreciated, so very much appreciated, look forward to when that comes through.
All right, any other questions?
Can I say a couple more quick things?
Yeah, definitely.
So just briefly, these funds are paid by taxpayers, so they're funded locally. That's an important statement to make. And I also want to say thank you to the mayor. These plans can be much more generous. 2,100 just to start could be equal to an IRA contribution. And the more you can do legislatively to try and push those benefits, to me, the better for your volunteers. So thank you for doing what you did, and please keep doing that.
Absolutely. Okay, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Good night, everybody.
Good night. All right, so I mentioned it earlier, just this idea that we articulated a position statement back in April defining what we felt was an appropriate definition for family, because we need that word defined within our zoning code. So I just wanted to put that on this agenda as a placeholder. I've spoken with our director of planning and zoning and our attorney, because it is tricky. Like, how do you define family so that it is a usable definition, where it isn't too heavy-handed? I felt like the segment from our position statement made some sense, so I'll leave it up to our director of planning and zoning and our attorney to make a suggestion, but I'll anticipate that we'll have something to consider on a future agenda. Simultaneously, our director of planning, when he met with us recently, he shared that he has a number of definitions that he would like to update. So, I mean, that's the thing. It's like, do we do this like a certain number of law changes at a time, or do we wait until we have several? There's a case to be made for doing chunks at a time. I think just by putting this on the agenda, it might mean that we could get this definition plus several others that Mike feels would be very important for us, and for our volunteer board members, as well as our building department officials, just to have clarity on. So, any other questions about any of this? No.
No, I just want to say, I like it when we do a couple things at a time, because it gets people to actually kind of think about the code more holistically, and including, us, but the public, we have to go through public hearing processes, gets to kind of see how it all works a bit better.
Right. Okay. So the next item, Brad, I'm just looking at the village website. So we got that proposed language change from will. So can the language on the website be updated so that it also reflects this, in addition to the language that's in the survey itself? Because I think this is really important in that, I want to make sure that when we're talking about lead water pipes, we are not creating a situation where people are overly concerned or nervous about having lead contaminants within our drinking water. So Congress banned the use of lead water pipes in 1986. And what has happened subsequently is that the federal government has basically required all communities to come up with a inventory of all of our water pipes within our conveyance system. And we have a deadline where we have to submit that report by, what's the date? This month, correct, Brad? The 16th. So we've been working on that. I feel like Brad has taken a lot of initiative. He's working closely with John Lawler from our village public works department. And we're gonna have, I think, a pretty solid list of where we believe that there is lead and where we believe there is definitely not lead, anything that has been constructed subsequent to 1986. So we've just tried to be very thoughtful about sharing with our public that this survey work is taking place without alarming anyone. But part of the survey work also requires us to reach out and ask the community to do their own inspections. And we know that, some people will dive in and take a look at the mechanicals down in their basement to see if, there are lead pipes, and then report back to us, because that's just a part of the exercise, that we can include in our study. And then what the federal government wants us to do is to have these study results and then come up with a plan if there is lead that we need to be removed. So the other thing that I think is super noteworthy and very positive is that we applied for a very competitive grant and were awarded $193,000 to perform this study. So that's super helpful and very appreciative. That was actually bipartisan infrastructural law money bill is what it's referred to as. So that's the federal funding that will help us with compiling this study information. So this is on our agenda this evening, primarily just to update the community, let them know that the website has information about the study, and that there's also this Google form that we've created that should allow people to go ahead and perform their own inspection and then report back to us. So there's no action that's needed to be taken, but we need to go ahead.
I just want to add that while the deadline is the 16th, we're going to continue to submit information annually, so people can submit information even if it's after the 16th. Whenever people can fill out the form and get it back to us, it'll be good, because if it's not in for this year, it'll be in for next year.
Great. So the point of the 16th is that that's like the initial submission. So like if we didn't submit by the 16th, there would be a problem. But so we're making our best effort to submit the information that we have, and then it'll basically be a rolling update.
Yeah,
is the point that you're highlighting.
Next 10 years.
For the next 10 years, right? And then what about timing in terms of when are we required to have a plan to make corrections? Like, how does any of that timing work?
My understanding is that in 10 years, anything that we don't know, we have to assume it's lead and go in and dig it up and either remove, find out that it's not lead, or find out that it is lead and replace it at that point.
Right. Good. All right. Well, thanks for that clarity. Okay, so no actions needed on that. That's just kind of an announcement to share with the board and the public. Next item, we do need to take an action. So the operator of our sewer plant and water treatment plant, H2O Innovation, we have an extension agreement where we can go month to month with them. We've actually had a lot of constructive meetings with their team more recently and our public works. And I feel like, we're all working better together than we had been. So I'm very pleased. I think they're a great resource. They're really good with helping me understand, how information is gathered, for instance, down at the sewer plant and reported back to the regulators. So, I'm finding them to be very resourceful, and, Blue and his team, do a really great job, and they have very high expectations for what they want from an operator. And, I feel like, everyone's working collaboratively now. So, I move that we go ahead and, agree to this extension.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then the next item has to do with the North Chestnut water main that is being replaced as we speak. So the DOT, and this was identified a couple of years ago when there was a sewer main work done down there. So at the traffic light that exists at North Chestnut and North Front, there's basically a device that, just figures out whether there are vehicles there, so then it can instruct the lights what they need to do. But they refer to it as a camera. So I spoke with folks at the DOT about, what does this mean? It's actually not a camera in terms of the way we think of cameras, like it's not taking pictures of vehicles, it's basically just determining whether there are vehicles there. So because this device had been below grade, it will be better if it's up on the poles, and then that will, it won't create issues moving forward, when we have to do work like this. But I believe it'll also be an updated technology. So the DOT just asked us to pay for it since this is our project and that it is not there. So I feel like the path of least resistance is just to go ahead and agree, because we want to get that water main in without any further delay. We worked really hard to make sure that the North Chestnut segment work was being done this fall before the winter season, actually the water main break season. So hopefully we'll have fewer water main breaks because this work will have been done this fall. So I move that we agree to pay for the traffic light update. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
And then the next item is, previously our board has agreed to resolutions just saying that we support our application to the Department of State DRI program. I was looking at, this will be our 8th year of applying to this program, so I was looking at older resolutions. I didn't link one of them to this agenda just because I ran out of time, but I just wanted to officially ask the board that we agree to greenlight a resolution so that we're all on the same page and okay with applying to the Department of State for the program. Someone want a second? All in favor? Aye. And then,
Are we,
go ahead.
are we linking up with the town on this at all, or?
No, I've been writing by myself.
Okay. That's what I thought, just to make sure.
The next item is, and I mentioned this earlier when we were amending the agenda. So Green Meadows, that's the contractor who's making sure that the wells that we have up at the treatment plant property are connected to our different reservoirs and the filtration building itself. There was some headwinds in terms of getting supplies to complete the project, so they just needed an extension through the end of the year. So I just wanted to retroactively move that we agree that they didn't need to be done by September 30th, that they actually have until 12/31.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then the other item that we kind of touched on a little bit is just that the Margaret Wade Lewis is applying for technical assistance from Preserve New York. The village would be the applicant because we continue to own the property, but we work hand in glove with the Margaret Wade Lewis Center team, and Brad's gonna make sure that all the i's are dotted and that this grant application is submitted. And the individuals on the Margaret Wade Lewis team have done a lot of the research, so it should be pretty straightforward in terms of crossing fingers and hoping that we go ahead and receive this award that would help with the asbestos removal work or the study that needs to be done. Because there's a plan of attack to address the asbestos in the building. So I want to move that we agree to apply as a village board to Preserve New York.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then I move bills and claims.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Bill, you want to do any PB liaison update?
Sure, Ulster County Planning Board met last week. Of interest, under examination was the cannabis bakery, cannabis dispensary on 3 Water Street. There was low attendance at the meeting. No decision was met. that decision was sent to the planning board, and we still have 30 days to appeal back, no decision. Some of the concerns in the planning board was expressed were, how do people cross the street from the parking lot? There was concerns about whether or not there should be gravel or asphalt at the apron, and whether or not who would pay for that and when that would be done. It was suggesting that perhaps they would post a bond so that they could, once approved, to go ahead with business and do the paving in the springtime. And that's. Oh, and there was a proposal by MT Bank at the corner of Manheim and Main about the reconfiguring their entrance to the bank so there could be more ADA friendly. So there'll be a ramp there, and planning board was fine with it, and I'm sure anybody else associated, as well as anyone else associated with the very much fine with it. Very simple, direct operation to them. I know there's a landscaping which has been listened to about a year.
So I was at the ZBA, oh, you're
Yeah,
up.
right.
So I was at the ZBA meeting last night, there were only two projects being discussed, it was the same thing that I shared out at the last meeting. One was related to the 7 Prospect construction, and then the other was related to requests for an area variance at a house on Huguenot Street that was an encroachment to its side yard. That's all really I have as far as an update regarding, those are the 2 topics that are on that were discussed last night. Anything else from our board? Okay, all in favor of adjournment? All right, good night.
Good night.
Thanks, Peter.
Hey, Brandon.